to come out there. I want to just tell you that I developed really deep friendships with people in the Pakistani community in my journey. We were talking in the other room that it is no longer even friendship, it's a brotherhood, it is a sense of family. And one of the people that's really a part of that, I want to thank Dr. Ahmad for his incredible, unyielding, relentless, indefatigable friendship in my life. I just feel very blessed by that. And of course, yeah, please. But I also want to thank, of course, this incredible introduction by Mrs. Malik and Dr. Malik here. This made me feel home. I almost felt when she was speaking, who the heck is she talking about? It can't be this guy from Jersey. But Dr. and Mrs. Hawk, everyone who went about making this really comfortable gathering, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And then I walk in, and I didn't expect him. I didn't know he would be here. But you have to understand, when you're a guy growing up not far from here, and you see Ed Towns when you walk in the room, as I was coming up, we share the same media. I live in Newark, New Jersey, New York. We share the same media market, so you almost feel like that he represents you because you see him up there being such a champion for issues that matter. So for you to make this gathering, for me, it means quite a bit. But I want to, first of all, I feel bad that I have my back turned to them, so I'm gonna come back here, if you all don't mind, and stand on this side of the room so I can see them as well. I mean, and you know the beauty of the bald man. I know you know that. I don't want you staring at the back of my bald head. So God only made so many perfect heads, but the rest of them be covered with hair. So it's good to see you. Look, I don't want to talk long. My friend said, Cory, don't talk long. We have things to do after you speak. So I want to just be clear about a couple things. First of all, look at this room. I see such a great diversity of folk, and I want to respect one thing. We share this common bond. Some people might be first generation. Some people might be able to, I've traced my history back to the 1640s in the United States. But the reality is we are a part of one family. And the greatness of this American family that we're a part of is that it is diverse. America's truth is not that we are homogeneous. America's greatness, a beacon to the world, is because we represent the world. There is not one faith, there is not one ethnicity, there is not one cultural tradition that is not beneficiaries of the other faiths, the other cultural traditions, and other races in this country. We are not necessarily a melting pot, we are a woven thread of different type that makes a much stronger garment. When we are together, when we're unified, there's nothing this country can do because we have the best of humanity represented in one nation. I love this idea of rugged individualism. I love this idea of self-reliance. Those are noble ideals. Everybody is here because they're rugged and they got things done, they have grit. But the truest story of America is the story of what we can do when we come together, when we understand that we're interrelated, interconnected, that we rely on each other. I always say rugged individualism is great, but rugged individualism didn't beat the Nazis, rugged individualism didn't map the human genome, rugged individualism didn't go to the moon. We did those things together. When hidden figures work with white male NASA astronauts, you see these wonderful things that can happen. And this is why APPAC makes me so excited, because the Pakistani community is needed in our democracy. Without strong voices in the Pakistani community, without the leadership, the cultural traditions, the religion, the family, all those values that are evident within the glory and greatness of the American Pakistani community, without them, we are lesser as a nation. And so to come up into a community that has so welcomed me, so supported me, so said to me, look, we want you to better understand our issues. We want to make you a better senator. We want to empower you not just here at home, but as a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. We want to empower you to be a better global leader. I will say right now, I am a better senator or representative of my country because of the Pakistani community, because of your and so I'm going to take the instruction from my friend and wrap up with 2 final points. I am blessed that I have people that come out to my office with issues. Armenian Americans, Italian Americans about Italy, Armenian Americans about Armenia, Jewish Americans about Israel. This is all good. Mm-hmm. It is very good. I just want to encourage the incredible Pakistani leaders in this room, some of whom were telling me stories, Dr. Haq, going back 25 years. 25 years of activism and engagement and leadership and service. I just want to say continue. Inshallah, you will continue.
Great, thank you.
Because this kind of leadership that I'm witnessing here in Staten Island, which is the best of all boroughs because it's the closest to New Jersey. What I'm witnessing here is something that is so encouraging to my spirit. I want to finish with a personal story because you were playing some of my highlight reel, and I was talking in one of those speeches about what it means to be seen. I know you all know this because I see Pakistani Americans here, I see Black Americans here, I see women that are here, that when your culture, whether it's TV or the news, doesn't acknowledge the diversity of this country, it does a disservice. The best leaders I've seen, and I see a young leader over there, I don't think he's got more hair than me, he's handsomer than I am, better shape than I am, I'm a little jealous. But when you are in a community that has leaders that see your value and see your worth, it means so much. And so I just want to end with a story about my beginning of my career. When I first started in Newark, it was 25 years ago this month. As an elected leader, I was knocking on doors to run for city council in Newark, New Jersey. Not quite as big as towns as your district, but I was running for the central ward of Newark. And one of the great leaders that helped me was this tenant activist. He led the longest rent strike in Newark's history, a guy named Frank Hutchins. And he was renowned. But the thing about Frank is if he walked in the room, he was so humble and mild-mannered, you wouldn't think that he was one of our greatest leaders. But I remember being in a tenant meeting with him in some high-rise projects, and I was a lawyer at that point trying to collect information to sue this very bad slumlord, and he was holding the meeting. And every person that spoke, and this was one of those meetings where it just went on too long, it was hours. Every one of those people that came up to the microphone to talk about the conditions of the building, he looked at them as if they were the first speaker and the most important person in the room. I was getting antsy. I was this young guy, sort of like, I got everything I need. This is hour 3 of this meeting. How long is this going to go on? When we left there, I remember turning to Frank Hutchins and complaining about how long the meeting was. And he stopped with this kindness and love in his eyes. He said, Cory, every one of those speakers, every single one of them needed to be heard. And their pain and their struggle needed to be out there. We are here not just to fix the buildings, but to understand you can't fix the buildings until you repair the community. Well, years later, after Frank Hutchins helped me get elected to city council, then helped me get elected to mayor, he was getting older and he was getting very ill. He lost his eyesight. And eventually he was in hospice. And I will tell you, this is what was wrong with my ego. I would get very upset that I would go to hospice and visit with him, and there weren't hundreds of people visiting him. Here's a guy that because of his heroic efforts, he kept so many people in their housing, so many people with heat, so many people with hot water during the winter. He was a hero, but yet very few people were visiting him, and I was upset about that. But not Frank. You see, because Frank understood life is about purpose, not popularity. Mm-hmm. Life is about significance, not celebrity. Yeah. Life is about how many people you show up for when you're alive, not how many people show up for you when you're dead or dying. Yeah. He had this understanding. my hero. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him on those early stages of my journey. I would never have been elected to city council if he didn't go to people and say, you can trust this young man, support him. He turned a number of the buildings in Newark to my support. And here it is, I'm about to go into his hospital room, and the nurses, these incredible public health professionals, underpaid, underappreciated, said to me, this will be the last time you see Frank, you should say your goodbyes. And I walked into his room, they told me that he couldn't see, I knew that, and they told me he couldn't speak, that he had stopped being able to speak. And I walked in and I could hear his breath, fast, low, and shallow. And as I approached his bed, I announced myself. I said, Frank, it's Cory. And he heard that, and I could see it affect him, and he started to try to speak. And he did, he made a joke. He goes, I see you. And I knew he couldn't see me, but I sat by his bed, and how do you say goodbye to your hero? I put my hand on him, and I told him how much he meant to me, all that he did to me, that he was my great mentor of life, that he was a hero to me. And I told him I loved him. And I kissed him on his forehead, kissed him on his cheek. Eventually I had to go, and I told him one more time, Frank, I love you. And as I was standing up, he pushed himself to talk and said to me, I love you. And I left, and he would very soon pass away. Now, I think about this all the time when I'm going about my day. And I remind myself, as much as I can remember, his final words to me, because I found so much wisdom in that. Isn't that what leadership is? Isn't that what service is? The words that he said to me, his final words, I see you, I love you. I see you, I love you. I see you, I love you. To this community, my neighbors, my friends, my family, I want you to know, I thank God for you. You are making me a better servant, and I will always see you and love you. Thank you.